to lead. We are really excited to be running this. Last time, it was absolutely amazing. Matt covered the covenant for the church and what that looked like throughout the Bible and where it's heading. And as leaders, like, it challenged us individually of what can we do. So for some of you that were watching last time, we ended with a couple of minutes of just writing down, I have a dream, and what it looks like to impact your community. Like, what is your dream? So we based it off of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream, and we put it into the sphere of society where we are and what we're doing. My name is Beckie, and I'm a part of this church, and I've had some time with YWAM in America, and so I'm back now. And then we have Linda in the back, who leads our youth area and our children's work. And then we've got Matt, who is the pastor of the church, and Frank. I'm going to have you come up and just briefly introduce yourself because you didn't have the opportunity to do that last time.
Hi, I'm Frank. Baptist minister for about 40 years. And retired down here, but not stopped. My wife, 4 sons, and what more do I say? Nothing. Later.
There you go. Thank you, Frank. All right, so part of this course, we have assignments you can do. They're optional, but if you choose to do it, then if you've done one from last time, you can hand it to Matt, who will look it over and give you some feedback. These are assignments that are kind of connected to what we're teaching to kind of help you go more deeper with it. Something else that we would encourage you to do is journal. So as you are like coming to this session and you're writing your notes down, taking it away and kind of journaling certain aspects of it, how it applies to you on a deeper level. We have some forms there that you can fill out, questionnaire. So if you haven't done one of those, please grab one and do one. There's an option for you to be mentored throughout this course. And so that those journal entries will actually help with the mentoring sessions. So it'll give your mentor a chance to go a little bit deeper with you. If you're not from this church, it'll be someone from your church that will take that on with you, and we'll be communicating that to them. If you're from this church, it'll probably be Matt, me, Linda, or Frank, just to give you that opportunity. Again, with this, there are some finances that we need to run it, but that's optional for you. If you want to give a gift, there's a machine over there for a card thing, but you don't have to. So it's just, if you feel led, you can. Otherwise, we're going to provide this. There'll be tea and coffee, mainly coffee. If you want tea, really good coffee. I made it really strong. I made a lot this time, so hopefully we don't run out.
Sorry,
Yeah. And then there's snacks. So eat all those snacks so we don't have to like store them anywhere or take them home. Also, with this course, there is a chance to be a part of 2 missions trips. So I'm going to have Frank come back up, sorry, Frank, and just explain the missions trip that will be in the area where Frank used to work. And then I'll have Matt come up and share. And then we're going to do something called Teach Back. So.
Thanks. Looking around, some of you wouldn't remember when the Berlin Wall went down. But it was an amazing time back in 1991. In 1992, through a friend linked up with the Baptist churches, I found myself in Central Asia. And whilst I was there, on my first visit, I saw these sort of centres, because where I landed was on the Silk Road. And nobody did the whole of the Silk Road on one go. They did bits. And there were these community places where they stopped, and their ideas were exchanged, and thoughts and goods, etc. And something went off in my spirit about putting down a mark for the kingdom on the Silk Road that could share the kingdom of God. And I was linked up with the regional government, and they asked me, after we had done some courses in English and in business and in law and order, every time I was asked to do something, I went back to the church and found a policeman or found a businessman, and we run conferences, and they asked us to have a permanent base. And so the Salem Social Village was birthed. Now I think there's about 8 Kazakhstani leaders who are all on-fire Christians, and somewhere in the region of 4,000 folks go through that centre every year, right in the middle of a Muslim country.
So Kazakhstan is one option. Again, these mission trips are optional.
Just going back to last week, I want you to listen to what Frank said and what he shared, because that is what we talked about last week. Yeah? A vision for the kingdom. There was nothing there. And our vision comes, and now there's something there. And it came because of Frank's, and I'm sure others around you, vision for the kingdom of God. I think it's really important, because what Frank's just described is what we talked about last week. Okay? So Frank would be kind of coordinating and leading, or we're working it out at the moment. There's nothing set in stone with this yet. Okay, we've got 2 options, and they very, very much are options, and it really does depend upon who wants to do it. So one option is Kazakhstan, and working with the groups that Frank's established out there and still has good links with. The other would be to go out to Kenya, to Nairobi, where we have a long-standing, established link with an organisation called Tumani Kwa Watoto. And what they do is a group of 7 social workers who basically work on the streets of Nairobi and the streets of the surrounding towns and regions. And they work closely with partners. And when a family or a child who is on the streets or at risk of being on the streets, they just connect with that family. If they're already on the streets, they take them home. They put support in to get them into a local school, a local church, a local community projects or whatever. But they support them. And Steve and I were there March. We were there in March. Graham and I were there. When were we there? 8 years ago, 7 years ago, weren't we? Just looking around the room to see if anyone else has been with us. No. Amazing work. We worked out this time in March, was it 96 or 94% success rate? So the number of children that are rescued that stay at home is 94%. So when we go out, we'll do a week. We would stay in a local guest house where Steve and I, and then Linda's husband and son, the 4 of us went this year. It's very comfortable. Just a few minutes walk from the offices, and what we'll do is we'll basically immerse ourselves in the life of that project for a week. You will receive far more than you give, no doubt about it. Your heart will be torn apart by what you see, but you will come home enriched and changed forever. And as soon as you get off the plane, you say, oh, I just want to get back on the plane and go back. So we've got 2 very different projects that are available to us. You're going to have to pay to go. There's no We've got no fund or we reckon anything between, I reckon anything between 1,000 and 1,500 to 1,800 plus. Kenya will be pushing on to that because the flights are quite expensive. Kazakhstan, we reckon about 1,000, is that right? About 1,000. Obviously, we've got people on the ground there to kind of help put it together. But yeah, it's not going to be for everybody. We realise that. But what happens when you go on these trips is they change you completely. And so we thought if we could do that as part of this, for those who would like to or feel able to, we look at that sort of March, April time next year. But you're going to have to commit. And when you commit, I'll be honest, you've got to commit. Because what we've got to do is a shed load of work to make this happen. You know, we'll do it because it's worth it. But what you can't be is, I'm going, I'm not going, I'm going, I'm not going. We need to, obviously we know things come up, but we do need a level of commitment to this if you want to go. So we can then go to our respective partners out in these places and say, we're coming. Is that fair enough? What I would like to know personally, and probably, yeah, I would say probably by next time. So let's say by next session, what we will do, what we'll endeavour to do for next session, is get a bit more structure, so that you kind of know what you're signing up to, and then we can't do too much work on it until we know, but we can give you a pretty rough idea, and which will be reasonably accurate, because we've got contacts on the ground in these places. So if we try and get some details to you by the next session in November, and then if we could have some kind of commitment in a week or two after that, that would be really helpful. Because then we need to know whether we're running 2 trips or 1 trip. You know, if there's 6 that want to do it, it's probably 1 trip. If 12 of you, it's probably 2 trips. The bigger the number going, the harder it becomes to arrange. Smaller groups are much easier, just in terms of the logistics on the ground when you get out there and things like that. Anything you want to add, Frank? Because Frank and I will be doing the work on the respective places in the meantime. So we'll get some details out in the next few weeks. You ponder it.
Anyone wants more info, have a chat with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to add to that, for someone that's led a couple of missions trips overseas, you go on these missions trips and you think you know yourself really well, and you get challenged in the most amazing, challenging ways, let's put it that way, but you come out the other end more confident, knowing who you are, because you're out of your comfort zone. So coming out of your comfort zone helps you to build a stronger skill set in yourself. So if you can and you want to do this, I would highly recommend it. All right, so can I just have hands up if you watched the session last week or if you were here last week? So if you here or you watched the session. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to split into groups of 3. If you weren't here or you haven't seen the session last week, make sure that you are sitting with somebody that was. And I'm going to give you a chance to look at your notes, don't worry. But what you're going to do is you are going to teach back to the other 2 for 2 minutes exactly what it was that was taught last week and what you took away, your biggest takeaway. So you don't have to cover everything, but just how that impacted you so that other people know. Then I will stop the timer, and then I will start it again, and the next person will do it. If the third person wasn't there, you can just teach back what you heard from the other 2. So the other 2 will go first. Does that make sense? So this is just a way for you to recall what we did last week, but give that option. So if you want to get into groups of 3, make sure if you weren't here that you grab somebody that was, so you can at least teach back from one person.